Caesar's dominance sparks fear among rivals, who believe his power threatens the Republic itself. Determined to end his rule, a group of senators plot against him, leading to a violent betrayal as Caesar is stabbed to death by people he once trusted.
The day that Julius Caesar gets assassinated was also, in some of our source material, meant to be a day of spectacle. A little bit further down the road, gladiators are getting ready to put on a spectacle. And when they hear about the assassination of Julius Caesar, they rush out. Caesar was a man of the people, and the gladiators held him in high regard.
Hear ye, hear ye.
So Caesar's assassination is tied up in some respects in this really nice small little way with what is going on with the gladiators, because they wanted him to live.
After Caesar's death, power passes to his adopted heir, Augustus, who in 27 BCE becomes Rome's first emperor, transforming the Republic into an imperial monarchy ruled by a single man.
Somebody drop a comment so I know it's working, please.
He undertakes a spectacular rebuilding of Rome. He says, I found a city of clay, I made it a city of marble.
But as part of that reinvention, he wants to show that he is giving the ordinary people of Rome their fair share of the spoils of conquest. And putting on dramatic games is a way that he can do that. And he wants to make sure that he's putting on bigger and better games than anyone has done beforehand, to show that an emperor is a new kind of political power.
In 14 CE, Augustus dies at the age of 77, and he's succeeded
I
by
didn't even
his
know you could do
stepson
that.
Tiberius as the second Roman emperor, who in turn was succeeded by Caligula, who was succeeded by Claudius, who was succeeded by Nero, who becomes the very last of the Julio-Claudian emperors.
Make a comment, because I
In
don't see
54
shit.
CE, Nero ascends the throne. He is young.
There they go, they just turned on.
and ill
What's up?
prepared for the immense power he
It wasn't
held.
showing me any comments.
Soon his
What is up,
image
44?
would
AT?
reshape Rome's relationship with gladiatorial combat.
I'm trying to get my freaking SPO1 milled, but there's like, it's just
Nero is
confusing.
very young when he becomes emperor. He's 16 years
I think
old.
I'm just not
He's
gonna
the
do it now.
youngest emperor up until this point.
I don't know if it's worth it. I have to
He's
use a
grown up
plate.
in the imperial family. He's someone who
The plate's
might not
pretty big.
necessarily have expected to become emperor. His mother was not married to the previous emperor when he was born, but he was still kind of very intimately connected. So his mother was the great granddaughter of Augustus. In terms of his character, he's interested in lots of pursuits and wider activities that other emperors before him haven't necessarily been too focused on. As an emperor, your interest should be the entertainment of other people rather than the entertainment of yourself. Whereas I think Nero was quite interested in the entertainment of himself.
Nero, driven by personal obsession, assembled an elite troop of gladiators from the empire's finest warriors.
Emperors had close engagement with controlling how gladiators were schooled and trained and controlling the gladiatorial troops. So in this case, this was a group of gladiators attached to Nero and the imperial family.
Nero's troop had the abbreviation NER on the graffiti on Pompeii, which would have stood for Neronianus, a Neronian gladiator.
To be a Neronian meant that your fights were connected to the fame and glory of Nero himself. So the emperor was invested
So,
in the
how's
and the
things?
outcome of your fights.
In a sense, the gladiators would have been beneath his notice as individuals. They were enslaved persons. You don't know whether an emperor would have stooped to know his enslaved troop by name.
Yet within Nero's troop, one gladiator in particular captures his attention. Speculus.
One of the graffiti from Pompeii records a fight between a complete rookie, Spiculus, who managed to defeat a guy called Aptonatus, who had fought and won 16 times. It's pretty remarkable that he was defeated by a rookie.
I think that Nero was drawn to someone who he sees as having talent. That would be what probably initially caught his attention. So we can only imagine that
If he had the right physique and the right
Compensator? I don't have any compensators.
trained up, would have had to start somewhere.
we only have a few mentions of Spiculus, but certainly he's someone that Nero seems to have looked after personally and had a bit of a
I don't have any
relationship with.
suppressors either. I do mostly like competitive shooting.
Really desired gladiators and other athletes. We might imagine that Nero is one of these men who admires the physique of gladiators like Spiculus, their combat, their prowess, and perhaps even desires to be like them.
Now, Nero is ready to put his gladiators on display. He announces lavish games, grand spectacles designed to showcase his warriors and reinforce his own glory.
Despite the games being performed under the name of Nero, he himself is not going to oversee the ins and outs of putting on a spectacle of this size. He will have a pure administrative service that will do the work of making sure that the games are put on, and that ultimately it is a spectacle that is entertaining for both the audience and for the emperor himself.
They would have advertised them by hiring sign writers, and so they would paint signs, particularly onto major thoroughfares where lots of people would have been passing, to tell you what day the gladiatorial games were going to be thrown, who was throwing them, of course. And they would also probably have programs which would perhaps list who was compared against whom.
A famous gladiator were going to appear in the shows, that would have been known, that would have been advertised.
My
Everyone
chat
knew
is
that Nero was putting on a
non-existent.
Emperors would put on games for a variety of reasons. It might be as part of a triumph to celebrate a big military victory.
Generally, the different emperors will approach the games differently. Nero himself had a greater appetite than most.
Nero held games extravagantly and on many, many days throughout the year.
Nero knows that spectacle has power. By feeding the public's appetite for blood and drama, he can keep attention and loyalty focused on the arena and not the growing tensions elsewhere in Rome.
The games that were put on by the Emperor Nero in Rome had to be bigger and better than any other games. The impetus would have been to put on things that are as novel as possible and as large as possible and as impressive as possible.
For Nero's games, Spiculus is clearly the star of the show. Having a great fighter like Spiculus is one of the great draws of these games. Spiculus would be pitched against another good
You get the matchups that you were open to having.
Man, it is not showing me the comments. It's just every time I gotta like restart the whole thing. This is not gonna work.
Usually fought somebody in a different style.
As the games went on, there was variations of the different types of gladiators to make the games more exciting.
The